I'm Dr. Barry, licensed psychologist, and here we talk about true crime and psychology. Thank you so much for joining. Let's hop right into today's topic. Let's go.
Welcome. And I just finished watching this series. It's on Netflix. It's called Should I Marry a Schmurderer? And we all know the answer is no. But I thought there were some good lessons in this story. And so today, my plan is to talk about the difference between affection flooding that can be common in a codependent relationship versus love bombing, because love bombing is often viewed as a manipulation tactic and affection flooding can be a little bit different. I do not know what is what. So any of my comments on this video are based on the series that I watched, my understanding of clinical psychology. I am a clinical psychologist, and breaking down some of the themes that I saw, I thought that would be interesting. I had to get this out of my mind. So I will have some spoilers. So if you want to watch the series and come back, but nothing I say will prepare you for actually seeing and hearing what happens, because the woman that is at the center of this story, she's the one that was in a relationship for, I want to say, 8 years. And she really thought that relationship was leading toward marriage. And her job is a forensic pathologist. She is a doctor. They will often refer to her by her title of doctor, and she's a forensic pathologist. And somewhere in the story, she starts to wonder if the guy she ends up dating, if he dated her for that skill set. We do not get an answer to that question. So that is still a big question mark. You do not know, but she did have, I think she had forensic pathologist, or she had something like that in her bio. And so if you have a job like that, so if I was, when I had dating profiles, and I did eHarmony briefly. I never got into apps. That was just my thing. And it was a long time ago. So I've been married since 2013. I met my husband in late 2010. And so I never ended up doing apps. I feel sorry for my clients because the apps can make things confusing and complicated. It is difficult out there. But any of the counselor friends I know, in their profile, they often don't put that they're a therapist, or that they're like, sometimes they might say educator, or they might use a term that's a little bit more generic. Uh yes, to avoid situations like this. Yeah, like you really don't think about it until it becomes a problem. And yeah. So let's do a little background into this story. So, this story it's like I said, it starts with, I want to say her name is Caroline. Y'all know me in names. Yes. So, Caroline is at the center of all of this. She also recorded and had a lot of pictures and videos that covers the time frame that she's talking about. And so she documented her experience. Um, my thoughts on why someone might do that. So some people just record a lot. So if they're crying, if they're going through something, there are people that will record that on their phone. They use Snapchat or different apps like that. I don't know if it was for that purpose or if it was for social media, but I'm a big face your problems, don't Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Like I'm not one to put my like worst moments online, but a part of that is also me being a therapist. And I have clients that follow my public profiles. I do not give clients access to my personal or private but I wouldn't post something really emotional, something I was currently struggling with on social media that was public for everybody to see. That's just not what I would personally do. Okay. Um, Yes, and I wanna clarify, the murderer is the person that she met next, so not the guy from the 8-year relationship, okay? So I was just talking about the fact that she had been in a long-term relationship, and after that relationship broke up, so she was hoping that relationship would lead to marriage. She was hoping that relationship would be positive. I think she kind of felt like she wasn't good enough or she wasn't chosen, because then what happens is she ends up matching, I think it was on Tinder, she ends up matching with, y'all know me and names. The name I have in my head is probably Sandy. So his name was Sandy McKellar. She ends up matching with him, and their very first date is an hour and a half away from where she lives at his farm. So that was a like, he invited her out to his farm, and he has, like, this huge he has this big sprawling, like, to me, for a first date, especially with somebody that you meet online, I personally would not go to their home for a first date. Like, a first date? Like, to your home? That's just me. That's just me. Like, let's meet up at a coffee shop. Let's meet up at, someplace else, someplace public. But the first date should be public. But they end up going to his farm. She has a great time, and she feels for the first time like she can be herself. And she felt in the past that she was too much and nobody really appreciated her. And she felt like with Sandy, she could be 100% herself, because she talks about the story where they were listening to music in the car and he's singing, she's singing. And in her past relationship, that would have been a problem. And so, based on my review of the timeline, and it was hard for me to follow the timeline because the information was just like, and I was also I was listening to it on my drive home, so I couldn't take notes as I was listening, because they end up spending which it's normal if you're in a long distance relationship. Sometimes you will stay over, sometimes you will end up having very long, like the time you are together, you want to make the most of it. That part wasn't the red flag, it was the speed at which this relationship was moving right after coming out of like this long-term relationship. And so it's my understanding it was not long. They had not known each other long, and they were already talking about possible marriage. And I think she felt glad to be chosen. I think she felt glad to be like, and also they kind of sprinkle in that there was some like drug and alcohol use during that period as well, that he used and she used with him. And so that kind of becomes a back part of the story, but I think I that could add a dynamic to this. I agree. Afton, it sounded like she really needed to work on herself. I don't think she was ready for a long-term committed relationship. And the love that she says she felt for Sandy, I think a part of that, I don't know that she really loved and cared about herself and really knew herself, really knew what she wanted and what she didn't want. Now, I'm sure there were some aspects that were good, but then he like so the way I remember the story being told, please go back if you want to sit through the three-part documentary. I think it was around episode 2 is when you get the story. Maybe it was at the end of 1, I don't know. But at some point you find out that he wants to take her, like, they go on this drive out on his property, and he, like, keeps the keys in the car, has her leave her phone in the glove box, walks her away from the car to tell her this big secret. He has this really big secret that he wants to tell her. And the big secret is that years ago, him and his brother were driving and they hit a cyclist, and the cyclist died, and they buried the cyclist on the property. And that is very true. So on September 29th of 2017, Sandy and his brother Robert were leaving a party while intoxicated. That's according to reports that I found and saw, and they hit a cyclist. Their victim was 63-year-old Tony Parsons, who was on a 100-mile solo charity bike ride. Tony didn't die, and so she doesn't know this at this point. So at this point, all she thinks that they were driving, they hit someone on impact, and there's a body buried on the property. And so, um, so I wanted to talk about sunken cost fallacy because that is something that can happen in relationships where you feel I've invested so much into this person. I've invested so much into this relationship. Does it cost more to leave? And I do think that she thought that when she went to the police to tell them what he had reported, that he would immediately be arrested. And so if you haven't seen the story, spoilers. So she does privately go to the police, and she eventually tells them what he said. And but the property is huge and they don't know exactly where the body is. Um and when they do end up picking up the brothers to interrogate, like to interrogate them, and of course they say no comment, or like they don't really answer the questions, and they are released. And so she was not expecting that. She, of course, is very freaked out by that, understandably. And in the midst of all of this, she still feels love for him and she can't let it go. Their relationship seemed incredibly um, codependent. It did not seem healthy, the dynamic between the two. And we all can see that watching. And there are some friends of hers that are interviewed, and they talk about their concerns with that the pace the relationship was going, how everything was going. I will say that her affect, because she comes off like she's happy and joking and talking about those things, but you do also hear her ask for breaks, and at the very end, she's like glad to just get it off her chest and just have it over with, and that she's talked about it. I think she shared her story as like a lesson to somebody else to not ignore the red flags. To if you're in a bad situation, if you have concerns, to love yourself first, to seek help, get support. And so I think that was part of the reason why she wanted to share the story, because a lot of people, I've seen comments on social media um, attacking her, and I do not do that. Nobody knows what it's like to be in somebody's shoes. I I was before I met my husband, I met a guy during, like, we were out dancing and I met him. He was like decent, like, so then, and we had agreed to meet up at another point. But I went and Googled his name, and an article popped up that was concerning to me. And the article didn't say that he had been convicted of the thing that was alleged, but it was a big enough red flag for me that I conveniently messaged him, and I was like, "You know what? I know we were planning to get together. I got a lot on my plate right now. Like, I don't think I'm in a space to do that. It was really nice to meet you. I'll see you when I see you. Those weren't the exact words I used, but that was the gist of it. I was like, "Ugh, no thanks." Um, I think because of the way this relationship started, and I think I don't know Sandy's motivations. So now, if she was targeted because she was a forensic pathologist and he was hoping, because at some point he asked her to help him and his brother dispose of the body, like get rid of any evidence. So, like, he does ask her to help him do that at some point. And almost like, if you help me with this, our future can be completely clear and we won't have any issues. Um, Okay. And so without truly knowing his motivation, at minimum, it was affection flooding at the minimum. That it's healthy to have some distance in relationships. It's healthy to like, it's not good when you feel like this person saved me. This person is my reason for living. This person is my like that's where things can start to get a little bit toxic. And so um and mama, you never met that person, because I met him out social dancing. And yes. And then somebody mentioned, I dated a man convicted of manslaughter. He said he was innocent, turns out he wasn't. Bye. Oh wow. And I've worked with individuals that, if while they're in session with me, they're like, oh, this guy I'm dating, he says he's a convicted, and like he's on a registry, but I don't know if that's true. And I'm sitting here like, what's his name? Wait a what's her name? What's their name? Ooh, we're wait a minute. This is what popped up. I am really good at, and so that is something that sometimes with clients, um if they're like, hey, can you give me so, and I never give people advice. Now, in situations like that, if somebody is dating somebody that's convicted of a crime like that, and I tell them, I'm not telling you to, but like, so if you do date them and you have a child in the home, I will have to call social services. Like that's like, if eh, dating them could place there could be issues down the road if you make this choice. And so it is what it is. And for this guy, the background, so he had a clear background check. He had never been convicted of anything. And he told her, and I think there was a part of her that felt like loved her so much that he could be honest about this, and that he unburdened himself. And like, because it was a very interesting, because so at some point having they end up living together again, and she's reported him to the police. And so at some point she helps the police mark where the remains are, because she kind of convinces him that, like, oh, I'll help you find where, I'll help you dispose of everything. I just need to know where he is. And the way that she marked it, he would know that she was the one, that because she used a diet Red Bull can to market, and he found out that that's what was used. And so all this time, him and his brother, they probably know she's working with the police, but I think there was a part of him that might have like, I don't know, there was the dynamic between the two was interesting. And when I say interesting, I don't mean that in a good way. The relationship between the two of them had me flipping, and some things aren't in the DSM-5. Some things are just don't. Please don't do that. That is not love. To me, their dynamic was, so I think healthy love, you should still be your own individual, and we don't help each other do crimes. We don't hide each other's crimes. Now, she wasn't intentionally trying, because she's over here recording his confessions. She's recording messages She's recording conversations between him and his brother. She's trying to help the police get more information. And I don't know if that was her forensic pathologist side that knew there were missing pieces in this puzzle and she wanted to help them solve it, but that I don't think she was protecting herself because he could have done something to her. He could have. Now, they did talk a little bit about his past. So the brothers, um, they had a history. Their father was really into weapons, and there were weapons just all over the home, including in the miners' rooms. At a very young age, they were gutting animals, and and it is true, if you introduce certain things to children too young, it can desensitize someone to it, because the docuseries kind of seemed to be hinting that the brothers kind of lacked some like empathy, because there didn't seem to be a care, because it does come out later that the cyclist did not die on impact, and instead they used the time to cover the crime. Like, they went back to their house, they changed clothes, they put on gloves, they and that's really crimey. So like, while he and they I think they moved him from where people could have seen and helped him. I don't know that they ever located his bike. Like, there's this whole thing was just wow. It was a lot. And then Tracy mentions, I don't think she was trying to help the police. I think she was trying to prove he was a good man and he kept disappointing her. That could very well be a thing too. Like, please don't, like, just yeah, because, I think the police were the ones. Oh, the brother was the one that told her that the victim was still alive. Uh, Her fiancé was not the one that told her that part. So then okay, so if you haven't seen the series, I'm gonna ruin a moment, but if you go back and watch it, 'cause I'm telling it to you, but I'm not showing you. She paid for a wedding dress. And during this whole process, this whole time, she tries on the wedding dress that she picked out with his mother. And, like, so there was just a lot of this that was just now she's heavily drinking, she's using substances, and so that's where it kind of felt like there was a part of her that wanted to be the main character in this story, like the person that kind of comes in and saves things. But like this, the whole thing, it was to watch it, to play it through. It was just like, what, what? And I try to look at things in a non-judgmental way, which this story made it very hard. Now I do think them sharing her history, because I don't think she ever thought she would find somebody that would love her. And if she could go back and think about it again, I wonder if she realized that what they had really wasn't love. What they had was maybe like passion and maybe substances and maybe a trauma bond. I don't think it was a healthy, connected love. And she's now in a new relationship, and they showed a picture of the guy, and she's sober, and I wish her all the best, but this was wild. I do hope that she had therapy. They did not mention therapy, but I hope so. She talked about working on herself, loving herself. She did not say that. I don't remember hearing anything about therapy or a therapist. And I think sometimes in society, because I've worked with people that were like 29 and maybe they hadn't dated, or they weren't they all their friends were getting married, all of their friends had somebody. Sometimes it's really easy to compare your situation to somebody else, and that's where I tell people to celebrate and value the position that they have. So, uh before I was a mom, I had more free time. I probably slept better. Like there was like a whole other now I love being a mom. The state I'm in now, I absolutely love it. And at the same time, I appreciate each stage in my life. If I had planned my life myself and if everything had happened the way I wanted, I would have wanted to be married before I was 25 and I would have wanted to have maybe one or two kids, but I wasn't ready for marriage at 25. Like, so sometimes things happen for a certain way, and to try to force it and to make it happen can often make things worse. And so that's where I say it's really important between relationships to do emotional healing and process what you've went through. After somebody ended an 8-year relationship, I would have recommended them not date for at least a year to heal from the ending of that prior relationship, because you open yourself up to rebound and end up in a similar situation, in a more toxic situation. Like you really can just sometimes you don't always make great decisions when you're feeling desperate, when you're feeling like I just need somebody. uh People often don't make great decisions during those times. I think was it Megan the Stallion? I think it was her. She said that her therapist told her to not date for a year because her and some famous basketball player, Thomas Thompson, somebody. They broke up. It was this whole thing on the internet. Her therapist recommended that she not date for a year. I think some people gravitate toward people who are harmful, hoping they can correct the harm they had as a child. They did not get into her childhood. They did not get into any of her possible past they outside of that 8-year relationship. Um that wasn't discussed during the show. Clay Thompson, thank you. I'm so bad with names. Y'all are the best. Um, and so I often recommend that people take at least, thank you, Miranda, at least a year. Yeah. So he told her he unalived someone. Why take him back to her parents' house? There is no good answer to that. And I think her parents just wanted her to like I think everybody around her was like, "This is not a good idea." I think she was trying to act normal because they didn't know it was truly, truly her until closer to them being arrested. I will also mention, so during the trial, this happened in Scotland, and they have like the Crown presses charge. It was really so I love all things British and like I like things like that. And so the Crown, they had like the wigs, the lawyers. I don't know if they did that during, I don't know, but the images they showed, they had them with like the little wigs on and stuff. The barristers, the solicitor, I don't know, lawyer, uh, and what ended up happening is there was an option to possibly have uh, a witness testify in advance and not have to testify in open court. When it came time to her testifying in open court, she freaked out. And instead of going to court, she drove to his farm and tried to find the bike. And she recorded herself. Like she recorded herself. It was, I don't know if she was on substances. It seemed and I hate to use, but like it seemed manic, but also sometimes there can be a trauma response that resembles mania but isn't mania. It's more of a flight kind of response that can almost look manic. And if she was on any substances, that could also, because she was using the white nose powder around that time. I don't know how she was using it, but that's my YouTube way of saying it. Yes, Crown Court always wears red. Thank you, thank you. But yeah, so they had the wigs on. Thank you, Karen. So Karen is a UK lawyer, and so I didn't remember because I don't think they use. I think they just use the word lawyer. They didn't say like solicitor or things like that, and so only the barristers wear wigs in court. So thank you for that. Um, but she didn't show up to court. They ended up arresting her for not showing up in court. She made all types of allegations against the prosecution, all of which ended up being unfounded. Netflix had like a little at the end they had their black screen where they put up words, and that was one of the things that they put up at the end. The brothers agreed because the crown took murder off the table and instead charged them with something else. And I think the most one of them got was 12 years. I think the other one got 5 years. That was mine. That was my memory, which isn't always great. But my memory is one got 12 years and the other one got 5. I'm sure the family, Mr. Parsons' family, uh, probably felt very hurt by that. But their case really hinged on her testimony. And she was not in a place to be able to provide that testimony that's based on everything that was reported. And she would have been her credibility would have been attacked because throughout this entire time until they were arrested, they lived with her. She's the one recording these like ew, like the relation and she like they were planning a wedding like so I don't know how that would have played out in court. The defense attorney definitely would have attacked her credibility. And so yeah, you can't ignore a subpoena and she did and she was threatened that so like the crown said like you have to be there. If you're not there, we will press charges. She did not show up the first day of court and they did not and she was arrested. They ended up coming to that deal. Oh, does she still have her medical license? Let me see if I can find that. um I wonder because at the time she was using all those substances and everything. I don't know how Scotland handles that. Let me see. Is she still a forensic pathologist? Is okay. So she was a forensic pathologist that worked in Scotland at a mortuary. Let me see. What does she do now? I wonder if she did lose her her license. Doo, doo, doo. Yeah, so the McKellars ended up being charged with yeah, the charges were released as part of a plea deal. Um, yeah. So where is she now? She suffered an intense amount of stress and trauma, and so this is the way the People article wrote it. She later filed several complaints against the police against Police Scotland, saying she felt they did not protect her. But like she didn't tell him no, but like that's where it's like it's hard. It's hard. Um She is sober, sees a psychiatrist regularly. This is according to the People article, and has a better relationship with her family than she did before the case. Okay. So it doesn't say what she does for a job. I do not know if she lost it. But yes, this is a true story. This is the real thing. Yes. So this is a real documentary based on a true story of a situation that happened in Scotland. Yes. I have links down in the description if you want to check it out. Karen, as a lawyer, I would love to hear your perspective too. Um, it was it was a lot. Somebody mentioned feeling that the doing the docuseries was an attempt at image management. But the bad thing, so I had never heard about this story. And this is now, like right now, that Should I Marry a Murderer is one of the top uh series on Netflix right now. And I want to talk about it a little bit deeper and talk about some of the underlying things like love bombing or affection flooding and how and sunken cost theory and the role that I think substances played in some of that codependence and everything. And um because I think if she had taken that year off, I don't know if she would have met him or if she would have seen some of those red flags a little sooner. There were issues with this that I think were like, I think could have been seen. Those are just my general thoughts. Next, I'll be doing a video with my mom. We will be streaming, talking about mothers behaving badly. Y'all loved her talking about Corey Richins. And so we'll talk. She did follow my coverage of Tracy Grist. And so and we'll answer your questions. Also, talk about upcoming Mother's Day. So, if Mother's Day is difficult or if people are healing from difficult relationships with family, maybe grieving their mother. And so, Mama, go ahead and log into the studio. We will be switching over to that stream in the next 5 minutes. I will see you all in the next one. Thank you all for watching. If this is where and I was on Profiling Evil. If you go to their channel, one of their recent episodes, I will be sharing the link to my community tab tomorrow or no later than Monday. I'm thinking about talking about that a little bit more in a members only stream tomorrow. So that'll be tomorrow about 1:30 because I have to wash my hair first. The hair is going to be curly, twisted. So I'm thinking about twisting my hair on a stream tomorrow and talking about the Profiling Evil podcast recording. But the podcast is up on their channel. Feel free to check it out. I will see you all next time. Have a good one. Bye.